that will address the economic situation that has been caused by what has happened. So in lending support to this motion, Mr. President, I will say that the Senate leadership that will interface with the President should do so urgently, and then make it possible for the Senate to have a robust discussion on the contents of the palliative regime. I'm aware that Mr. President has proposed 500 billion as palliatives, but I am of the view that that is not enough. And I believe that's a view that we all share, a lot of us share. But we don't need to leave that for the executive arm alone, Mr. President. Because under our system, the executive, Mr. President, cannot make any expenditures on its own without the National Assembly's approval. So my support will be that when the Senate leadership interfaces with the President, we should have a comprehensive idea about the details of the proposal on palliatives in different sectors, transportation. What happens to those who are in employment? What do we do in terms of the minimum wage? And all of those things. What happens in all states? So that Mr. President, you can take the leadership, with the leadership of this Senate, to interface with the President, and also meet with organized labor and other stakeholders, so that before even we go on recess, we have a robust discussion on what the contents of this palliative regime should be. But the point should be noted by all Nigerians that we all, individually and collectively, we share in the pains, and that we identify with them. And this motion has given us an opportunity to publicly communicate this sentiment to Nigerians. So I support the fact that the Senate leadership, at the end of this motion, should interface with the President and interface with organized labor, but beyond that, should communicate a robust and comprehensive package of palliatives, which I crave the indulgence of colleagues so that we go into it before we go on recess, because we never can tell if we leave this matter hanging and we go on recess. Just this morning, somebody sent me a WhatsApp that Osun State, there are demonstrations in some states. I don't want to mention which states. My colleague talked about what happened in Adamawa, and we never know which state is next. We're not just talking of hoodlums. We're talking of angry and hungry Nigerians, millions of them across this country. And we have a duty to respond to this economic reality while supporting the decision that the President has taken rightly on fuel subsidy withdrawal. Thank you very much.
Well, distinguished Senator Dixon and my dear colleagues, honestly, what you're saying is a true reflection of the feelings of most members of these hallowed chambers. We believe strongly that we must continue to identify with our constituents that sent us here. But we must also advise the press that when we discuss issues like this, they should know that we are part and parcel of the society. We should not be misquoted. Because I recall the last time that the Senate got very concerned and worried about the issue of impending fuel electricity tariff hike. There was a proposal to increase the cost of electricity. And so there was a motion here on the floor that we should advise that the tariff should be suspended. And then one of our colleagues in his own contribution also amended one of the prayers to say that yes, the suspension will be in order because it's important to allow the poor people to breathe. And then we said yes. As a presiding officer, the overwhelming majority of the senators cannot say poor people should breathe. Then I will say they should not breathe. And then somebody misinterpreted us. Oh, that they were mocking the poor. We come from communities that have a lot of high rates of poverty, and we are inundated daily by requests from all sectors, from the youth, from the elders and all that, to see what we can do. Even our earnings here cannot take care of the kind of requests that we get. So if the Senate President had ruled that the poor should not be allowed to breathe, I think that would be a record for the next 10 years discussion on television channels everywhere, that the Senate says poor should not breathe. The Senate says stop the tariff, suspend it, and give a breathing space to the poor people in the society. And then some people misinterpreted. They said, oh, the Senate is mocking the poor. Should the Senate have ruled, should we have ruled that the poor should not breathe? Senator Tambua, should that have been the ruling when you were the Speaker?
Mr. President, I am Aminu Waziri Tambol, representing Sokoto South. Mr. President, that position of the Senate was very apt and in consonance with the feelings of the majority of Nigerians. Should Senate not have taken that position, what it could have meant was that we are in support of some additional measures that would have adversely affected the well-being of the poor people of Nigeria. So we couldn't have done otherwise, and I believe that that position, as encapsulated and spread across the country, was misrepresentative of the position of the Senate. We are very clear, we are with the poor, and that was why we passed that additional prayer that let the poor breathe. Mr. President, it was timely, it was apt. Thank you very much.
So in that case, distinguished senators, I believe that in discussing this motion, you should not be worried that you may be misinterpreted, you may be misunderstood by some people who want to make political capital out of everything that comes from here. So, distinguished Senator Solomon Ademiloku, just round up this because it's straightforward. It's just to mandate the leadership to begin robust engagement with the Nigerian Labour Congress, with the presidency, and all stakeholders with a view to averting the strike and also streamlining the palliative that will come for the country to have peace. So say what your piece.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleague. Let me join the mover of this motion, others in thanking the mover of this all-important motion, and also those that have contributed to this motion. Mr. President, let me put it on record that we, as the representative of the people, feel the pains of Nigerians. And if you watch from time to time, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as always, says he feels the pain. He understands what economic hardship this tough decision is taking is bringing to Nigerians. The removal of subsidy, the rate unification, the interest of Nigeria. That the subsidy is for selected few and not for the overall benefits of Nigerians. And that is why its removal is very imperative. On the issue of rate unification, we cannot report expenditure with a different rate and also revenue with another rate. And that was why that has to come under one single rate. All of this reform, Mr. President, was aimed at trying to put a stop to the bleeding which over the years we have been experiencing as a country. Sir, not only the $500 billion that have been passed, also $800 million safety net has been passed. And all of these are meant for palliative. And I know on record that the government is not resting. They are working around the clock. Some states have started taking up initiative in trying to ameliorate the suffering of Nigerians. For instance, in my state, additional 10,000 naira has been given to civil servants aside of their salary as a way of alleviating the suffering. So all of these initiatives have commenced. And on the part of the federal government, they are putting together a holistic palliative measures to address the challenges currently faced by Nigeria. And if we're all aware, the last couple of days, since the inception of this administration, has been a thorough engagement with the Nigerian Labour Congress and all other people that are involved. And I know that whatever the challenges are, they are trying to be very careful. But Senator Dixon have told us here that it would not be a bad idea if the leadership of the National Assembly engage the presidency and also the organized labor. We should find out what is the current situation of things that is leading the happening and see how we can come in and intervene between the presidency and the organized labor. But we are not leaving any stone unturned, on our own part, and that is why we passed the supplementary budget with a jet speed. And also, on the part of the executive, they are working holistic palliative measure to the Nigerian Labour Congress to please time so that they can address this issue once and for all. And I know the issue of minimum wage is in the front burner as well.